And the first example I want to show is on a different account. So in this account, we actually have a script that we created, which retrieves Windows for the Windows operating system disk health information. So it basically retrieves this on a regular interval, in this case once a day. It will put that information in an index, and in our case we created a report for that. So let's just go to our custom report, and here we have Windows disk information. And as you can see, for all the devices in this, or at least all the Windows devices in this environment, it retrieved various pieces of information, including the model, the status, which is of course very useful to understand. If a disk stops reporting a healthy state, then it might be time to contact the vendor. You can get additional information like serial numbers or map this with a asset management tool. But this obviously can be run and alerted on a daily basis to see if there's any hardware issues that might need to be addressed proactively. In addition to that, I want to highlight our endpoint security solution, DEX, which especially helps with being proactive when it comes to things like vulnerability management, patch management, making sure that versions of applications are up to date, as well as ensuring that you are not suffering from any configuration drift when it comes to security, as well as ensuring that the tools that need to be running on the endpoint device, security tools such as antivirus, anti-malware, DLP tools, etc., VPN, are installed and running. And we do this through DEX. Now, the most important part to be proactive is the use of templates. And templates are basically twofold. So let's just create a one in here. I'm going to select which devices or which operating systems. So in this case, I want to run this template on all my devices. And it basically gives the IT admin the flexibility to define what is considered kind of like the gold standard of endpoint security in their environment, meeting their requirements, ensuring that they can configure what they want to check for. For example, this could be operating system configurations for Windows, things like making sure that UAC automatically denies elevation requests. It could be auto run behavior settings. It could be, if we go to compliance, again on the operating system level, it could be things like, hey, is secure boot enabled? So all these things that the security ops team or the desktop IT team sets as, this is what the requirements that the device in my environment must meet. So, like I said, configuration and compliance items, but also the presence of security controls. For example, if I can select all of them, but nobody's probably running all 28 of them. But if I, for example, want to check if, let's say, Carbon Black is installed and running, I want to check for that. If you have other tools like Trend Micro or SentinelOne or Windows Defender, all these things can be checked for as part of this template. And then probably a very important one is vulnerabilities and patches. Now, vulnerabilities and patches differ in one way. A patch means, hey, software is out of date, but there is a newer version, so it will check for that. A vulnerability is basically, hey, software is out of date, there's an updated version that also addresses certain confirmed CVEs. And as you can see, we have our database that checks for 38,000 CVEs. So as a IT admin, I can basically configure what I want to check for. So for example, I'm just going to randomly pick some configurations, some compliance, vulnerabilities and patches. And this is just where it will scan the device. So first, the agent will scan, is this what is present on this device based on this list that I just configured. Then the next thing, especially important when you want to be proactive, would be to auto remediate. So for those items that can be remediated through a piece of software, for example, some of these configuration settings we talked about, for example, I can say, okay, I can change these settings automatically if they are not meeting the requirement that I set. And obviously, I want to always update all patches and all vulnerabilities for these devices. Next would be setting up a schedule. So I can scan multiple times a day. It's really depending on the requirements a customer has. We can do a daily scan. We can do multiple times a day. We can do it every hour if you want to for the scanning. And then obviously linked to that is the remediation. That can happen immediately when after the scan. So if it's detected that it's missing a patch or if there's a vulnerability that's detected, it can do that immediately. Or I can, for example, say, okay, wait until a certain time of the day, maybe at the end of the day or at the start of the day. I can also enforce an auto restart. I can inform the user of what's going on. So this is all configurable to make sure that you find that balance between the user experience, but at the same time, keeping the security of the endpoint where it needs to be according to your standards. I get a summary of what I configured. In this case, I'm going to cancel out because I've already have various templates created. And based on these scans, it will update the issues dashboard. So some of the things we cannot necessarily remediate, where we can and it's enabled, it will, and it will not appear on this list. But things like certain agents, like in this case, for example, Tanium agent is missing on 6 of my devices. I need to have a software deployment tool, for example, Intune, as we saw earlier, to actually address that. But what can be remediated, should be remediated automatically.